Wow, the Youth Institute has had a pretty big impact on my life. I competed in the first Iowa Youth Institute and ended up at the Global Youth Institute that fall. I met my business partner there. She was a North Dakotan delegate. We now run a database that lets food shelves communicate with each other about waste. We co-authored a guide for high schools that want to run food drives that's in use in 30 states and 6 countries. And we both have had internships through the foundation. I found myself in Georgia, she found herself in India. It's really just had a phenomenal impact on my life.
So, with this?
We both myself and Churiro, who's my business partner, we both kind of had some ideas floating around, but we had kind of bought into the dogma that you're young, you can't do anything. We completely believed that. And then we came here and that changed. And we saw how empowered we could be and how much faith these experts had in us to be them in 10 or 20 years. And we said, why wait 10 or 20 years? And we started to work together.
So tell me a little bit about your experience while you're here.
These kids will give you faith in humanity. They really, really will. These students care more than any other group that I've ever met in my entire life. They have their priorities in the right place. They just care about other people and issues beyond their own lunch table, and that's fantastic.
Wonderful, well said. Yeah.
Doing World Food Prize?
Yes.
All right, so I was one of their Wallace Carver Fellows this last summer. So I found myself living on a college campus by myself, age 17, doing graduate level research with a bunch of people who are considered the who's who of plant pathology. 17 years old, I never in a million years thought that's what I'd be doing with my life, but it was because I'd been offered that opportunity by the World Food Prize. I am always going to fight hunger. It's always just going to be part of what I do. I will be most likely attending American University in Washington, D.C. this fall. I'll be studying public health on the pre-med track. Ultimately, I would love to practice medicine in some of the poorest places in the United States and bring that more holistic focus on public health, hunger, poverty into medicine and really start to make a change in people's lives.
Why is it important here?
They should get involved in the World Food Prize because it's our world. We're going to be the ones that live here in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We are the ones that are ultimately going to be responsible for whatever our children's children deal with. The people before us, the Dr. Norman Borlaug's of the world, have done fantastic things, but there are still things to be fixed. So it's our job to fix those so our descendants have less to deal with.
What would you say to young?
Here's my advice. You've probably seen me gesturing throughout this. I wear this ring on my finger every day, have since I was 14. There's a tan line in the summer, it's very attractive. It says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And that's a Mahatma Gandhi quote. We can't sit here and wait for somebody else to do it. You might not think you're the right person, but you might be. You've got to try and find out.
And
the Iowa Youth Institute is a fantastic place to start your journey of being the change because you're with students who are like yourself and also experts who are incredibly willing to work with you. You will come home with a pile of business cards of people you can email in agriculture, in public health, in science, and you can make those connections now and really start exploring. I think it's important for people who aren't familiar with the World Food Prize to know just how important this work is and how inspiring it can be. I would invite anybody to come listen to some of these kids talk about how they're going to go work with HIV in Africa or malaria in India and really see this dedication in somebody who's incredibly young. I honestly have yet to find a more inspiring environment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That was great. That was great.
This, I think, is my 8th or 9th year of bringing students to the World Food Prize. When I first started to come, I was actually I teach college biotechnology and college anatomy and physiology. And through the college biotechnology class, I had an opportunity to go to the governor's mansion. And when I was at the governor's mansion, the governor strongly suggested that I become involved with the World Food Prize. So with that kind of an invitation, it was hard for me not to at least investigate and see what was involved. And it turned out to be an amazing opportunity. I got an opportunity to meet Dr. Borlaug, and my students were in sessions with him. And he was so inspirational, I couldn't think of a way in which I would not bring children to this every year. The leadership opportunities that are available for them is just absolutely incredible. The experts that they get to meet, the world leaders that they get to interact with are unheard of for high school students. So really, it's an incredible opportunity.
So why is it important for high school students to get to speak to these people or hear from them?
I first started teaching at East High School, which is an urban high school where there's lower to lower middle class students, and many of them would be first-year college students if they decided to carry on. This opportunity for them to meet and interact with world leaders, to see that they could go beyond where they were on the east side of Des Moines and have an opportunity to become a world leader, and see that these people are not frightening or scary or unapproachable, that they could sit down and have lunch with these people, they could critique their papers that they'd written and get feedback from them and speak to them on a level which they'd never thought they could, is just unbelievable. And now at Central Campus, I get to teach kids from all the different high schools in Des Moines. And they're the same kinds of kids that they'll be first-year college students, many of them sometimes immigrants that have come, and to see that this is an opportunity that they could go a lot further than they ever thought is just amazing.
What has been the biggest aha moment or learning opportunity that you've experienced?
Oh gosh, there just have been so many opportunities for the kids when they would come back to me from at the International World Food Prize, when they would have an opportunity to interact with students from all across the state and from across the country. Some of them, it was their first opportunity to be away from home. When they would come back and tell me, oh, I spoke to the head of Purdue University, or I actually had my picture taken with the current laureate. And just, they're so amazed that these people, and they said they're really nice people. So for them to see that this is something that could be in their future is just absolutely amazing. And as a teacher, the ability to interact with other teachers from all across the state and all across the country is just incredible. And I also get the opportunity to see and hear these people speak about global issues that you hear about later in the news but were first discussed at the World Food Prize. It's just absolutely incredible. As a science teacher, this is just an amazing place to be, because you get to hear what's really happening out in the world. It's not what's happening in a textbook. It's not what somebody else has sort of distilled out and thought was important. You get to hear firsthand and bring kids to an opportunity to hear firsthand what's going on in the world.
I'm going to ask a question very similar to what you just said. Not that anything you said was wrong, but just I think that you touched on something that I didn't even think about. You get a chance to talk with other teachers, share ideas, listen, things like that. Tell me about that again, and tell me, why is that important?
Oftentimes in teaching, you get isolated in your classroom, and the more specialized your teaching is, the more, and the smaller schools maybe that you're in, you don't get a chance to interact with other teachers. And so the ability to come here and interact with other science teachers and even non-science teachers to hear how things are going at other schools, and to be able to network with them and find that you have similarities and you can exchange emails with them and keep that networking going beyond the World Food Prize. And then every year that you come back, many of the teachers return, so you get an opportunity to catch up with them from year to year and those kinds of things. And also we get to talk about, well, what school near you doesn't have someone who's involved in it, and how can we get them involved? And so it really helps to build the network, because then you have other people you have contact with.
How do you utilize or implement the information that you get here, that you learn through the organization? How are you applying it back in your school to everyone else that doesn't just necessarily get involved here?
At Central Campus and Central Academy, they had a World Food Summit in which they went through what they do at the International Food Prize, where they divide up the students between, this is how many would get just water, how many would get just beans, who are the few that get the amazing amount of food, and for them to really see how all of that works. So they put that together for an evening, and they had a lot of students attend. As a science teacher and teaching biotechnology, I can bring all of those ideas back and really kind of emphasize the fact that if we can make better crops, how is that going to help with hunger? So really to see that if you're a kid who's interested in science, there are opportunities in ag. And I have one of my students who's in the Global Resources program at Iowa State. He volunteered at the World Food Prize because he wanted to come so badly, took this opportunity, and now he is a Carver Bruin intern, and he's in Washington, D.C. right now. So just from, and he was never one of the children that got to attend, but he was so excited and talked to Catherine Sabota and got an opportunity to volunteer. So he just, I mean, the word is just spread.
Is there a student or two who's gone through this program that maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago that you look at and go, it started here at this place? Have you seen this kind of, this new person come out of the event here? Do you know anything by that?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say probably Ali is one of those people. He started out and was involved with the World Food Prize and then took it off on his own. He thought he was going to go to the University of Iowa, go to medical school, and that was where he was going to do. He didn't think much beyond that. Now he's looking globally. He's thinking about how can I still get a degree in medicine, yet take my skills and go global with them.
Wonderful. What question do you have? Anything I haven't asked? Anything come to mind? Anything else that you wanted to add that you think is important? So if we show this to other teachers or faculty, anything that you can think of that I haven't asked about?
I just think this is an amazing opportunity for teachers and students, and if their school is not involved in the World Food Prize, it sure should be. And so they probably need to look at somebody who would be able to do this. Even though it does require a sub and you do miss a day of school and there's not a lot of students immediately involved in it, the expansion of what is available is just incredible, and being a part of it is something that's worthwhile for both the school and the teacher and all the students in the school.
And I don't know how you would put this out there, but just the fact that this issue of hunger has so many different job avenues, does that make sense? That are not really known about, but that are there if kids are interested in it. I don't know what question you would ask to get her to talk about that, but I mean, when you come to Iowa State and you go into all these different classrooms and they're doing all these different things that a normal person would not know, actually that's a job. You wouldn't know that. So
all the different career avenues.
Careers, yeah.
All the different career opportunities that are involved with World Hunger. They're vast and expansive, and the students who participate get a scholarship to start them off if they choose to go to Iowa State. And then from this exposure, this is incredible resume material for them to put on for scholarship applications, and the ability for them to speak in front of experts and have written a paper helps tremendously for that next level for them too. I mean, it's just the skills that they learn besides the opportunities that they get to interact with people is amazing.
Yeah. That's what I've seen too.
My role with the World Food Prize is 2 years ago I participated in the Iowa Youth Institute. While there, I was able to participate in roundtable discussions and talk with different experts throughout the university and from companies such as DuPont Pioneer. I then attended the Global Youth Institute, where there I was inspired to become more involved with the World Food Prize program, and from that I applied for the Borlaug Ruan internship. And then last summer I had the opportunity to work as an intern in Nakhon Pathom, Thailand as a Borlaug Ruan intern. It was absolutely life-changing. If you had asked me 2 years ago when I attended the Iowa Youth Institute, I never would have thought that writing a paper about sustainable water issues in Mozambique would ever bring me this far. I mean, I traveled halfway around the world, was doing research with bitter gourds, and it was absolutely life-changing for me.
Wonderful.
For me, it's definitely changed who I am. Starting out high school, I was a super shy girl. I'm still kind of that way, but I've definitely had to branch out more. I mean, traveling halfway around the world, you got to be able to talk to people, just networking, meeting all types of different people, learning about different ways of life. Well, because of my association with the World Food Prize, I was able to not only participate in the Iowa Youth Institute, the Global Youth Institute, but I was also a Borlaug Ruan intern. And through that, I've been able to meet all different kinds of amazing people, people who have helped impact solving world hunger. which is absolutely amazing. While working in Thailand, where I was for my internship, I was able to work with bitter gourds, and that's a folk medicine for people with type 2 diabetes, and it is used in Africa and Asia. And with that, we were researching the male and female flower dates to see if we could create lines that would germinate before 45 days so they could produce more bitter gourds within a year. This experience definitely has opened up new experiences for me because, you know, I grew up in central Iowa working with seed corn, and then I traveled halfway around the world to Thailand. The culture is definitely different from Iowa. You know, I grew up in a small town. My graduating class was 34 kids. So, I mean, you know, being able to live on my own the summer after high school definitely taught me to be more independent. So, yeah, I learned a lot from this experience.
Good. Come on, just a second. Yes, sir.
Well, since I'm currently an agronomy major at Iowa State University, I'm pursuing a career in agronomy. I would like to hopefully work for a seed company, and then from that, maybe some year come back as one of the experts. You know, being able to have gone through that process, talking to experts, it was motivational to see that, and you know, I would like to be able to do that someday. While I'm still in college, I would like to continue to help out with World Food Prize events, and I hope to inspire students the way I was inspired when I was their age. My experiences have definitely opened many doors for me. It's created all different kinds of opportunities. From the work I did this last summer working with genetics, I now work for a lab on campus working with transgenics. And you know, starting out as a freshman at Iowa State and having a job like that is absolutely amazing. You know, not many people have the opportunity that I've had, and it's just life-changing to be able to be a part of something like this.
Great. Do you think you would...
Okay. Individually, if this program did not exist, I do not think I would have had the experiences that I did. Without this program, I do not believe that I would have had the same experiences that I was able to participate in.
Wonderful. Anything else you think of mind?
I definitely think listen to your teachers. For me, that's what it was. My ag teacher had suggested that I write a paper for the Iowa Youth Institute, and I was a little unsure about it. And then, you know, I started doing research, and it led me to the Iowa Youth Institute and then the Global Institute, and then I got to participate as a Borlaug Ruan intern. So, you know.
Very good. Excellent.
This is my first year participating in the Iowa Youth Institute. I had to write a paper based on a country and find a factor that affected their food security.
What made you...
I think for me it's my own background, being that when I was little we didn't have money like most people did. I had to go to food pantries, so just taking the initiative of writing the paper and trying to take that baby step to making a difference in the world.
Okay. Why, for somebody who's involved?
I think that if you just step back and take a look at what you're doing, see if you're happy. Are you really happy with what you're doing? Should you be helping others? And what the value to it is seeing others succeed, be happy, and be passionate about what they're doing.
How have you changed? Was the experience changed?
I think since I got involved in agriculture, I've really changed my perspective on life. I've used to just drag on in life, not really care about what I do. And in agriculture, it teaches you that there are people out there who need help, and you can do that with being involved in activities such as FFA, 4-H, and today such as World Food Prize.
What do you say to one of your peers in school who is?
I say that you can stand up and you can rise above and you can just be different. Be that person that stands out of the crowd. Be that person that will help any person in any situation. Just be that person, take initiative, and you will get recognized eventually.
Wonderful. What else is
something something really important to know is that if you just don't get out of school, there are benefits after the paper. You learn not just about the country that you write about, but about other countries. Say you don't know the politics or war that's going on in another country, you're here worried about what you're going to wear tomorrow, or she's doing this with him, blah, blah, blah. there are people facing real issues, such as in Bangladesh, there are people who don't even have latrines, or safe latrines or safe drinking water. So, yeah.
So kind of opens up.
So the World Food Prize for me started off getting like a little flyer in the mail about the process of trying out this event. And I read through it, and I went to the website and started looking at it. And I asked some of my students if they would be interested in writing this paper. And I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but these two girls decided that they would be interested in writing the paper. And so they got it done, and we came out the first year, 3 years ago, to Iowa State for the youth summit. And we had this fantastic experience, and the kids really loved the whole thing. And then they actually both made it through to the International World Food Prize, and so we headed to Des Moines. And we became submerged in this issue of global hunger, and we left there saying, like, we can't stop talking about it, and we can't stop, you know, just because the week is done, we can't leave it alone. We need to keep doing more. And so we've just, every year since, I've just been asking students if they would be interested in writing this paper, and I help them with the process of it. So,
why is this important? Well, I mean, you're making a lot of effort on your own and outside of school. Why is this so important?
Because 1 in 6 kids in Iowa are hungry, and you can't, as an educator, a lot of times you don't know the baggage that kids are bringing with them every day, and it's really sad when the baggage is the fact that they just didn't get to eat. And so I think that it's really opened my eyes to the fact that these kids have a lot bigger issues than who won a war, or, you know, a certain theory of psychology or whatever. So I feel like this has made me a better teacher. It's made me realize that there are more important things to also be bringing into the classroom that maybe I wasn't bringing in beforehand. And so it's just really helped me, I think, see kids in a different light and see kids in a different way.
Sure. What feedback have you heard from the students? What have they said? How have they changed? What impact has it had on them?
Well, the process of writing the paper, it is a lot of work for the students to do. And as the educator, you know, or as a facilitator, you're the one who's, you know, helping make sure that they're finding websites and finding organizations that they can really focus on, and they can that they're understanding what it is exactly that they're writing. And so when they get done writing this intensive paper, the satisfaction of that they got it done is something that's really, that in itself is kind of quite an accomplishment. And then when they find out that they made it in, then they get really excited. And then when they get here and they get to, you know, give this 3-minute presentation, and they're talking to people like the president of Iowa State, and they're talking to leaders of DuPont and Pioneer and all these different companies that are coming in, and they're learning all this stuff, and they're going into the classrooms at Iowa State, and they're getting to, like today, you know, we're doing this gene experiment, and you know, these are things that they don't get to do in the normal classroom. These are things that they don't have an opportunity to see or hear people speak, and you know, it's amazing. And they take that home, and they say, oh, you know, I heard the president of Iceland speak, and that's not normal to have that person, you know, that close to them, and so it's just really quite interesting experience that they actually learn a lot from.
So, who should be here? What kind of student? What kind of school? I mean, who should we target? How do you make sure that the right people are here?
Well, I don't really think that there's necessarily a right or a wrong person, because I think that if you're actually going to solve global hunger, I think that you have to understand that lots of different people have lots of different ideas, and you have to be open to, you know, not always maybe the best student is going to be the person that you're going to bring. It's the kid that has the most passion for the topic, and that person may not always be the one getting straight A's in class, I guess. My very first year that I brought students here, I would say one student academically was much stronger in the classroom, but I would say that the the other student, when they came here and they heard what was going on, they became very, very inspired, and they left saying, I want to make a difference. Like, I want to do something that is going to change this issue. And they now have the plan of coming to Iowa State and getting involved in some of the programs that they heard about on that first visit. And so, you know, had this girl not had that experience of coming to the World Food Prize, Iowa State may not have even been an option. And programs like Global Resource Systems may not have even been something that they had ever even knew existed, you know. So I think that anyone can do this. Any teacher can take this on. You know, I'm a social studies teacher, and I just sat in a microbiology classroom doing an experiment on genes, and I had no idea what the people were talking about presenting, but my students sitting in the classroom that were with me, they knew. And they were able to answer these science questions that I didn't know the answers to, and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so smart. Like, it was great to get to see them be successful in a classroom that I knew nothing about the topic, and they were getting the right answers. So I think that any teacher can do it. And I think if you have any compassion for others and you have this idea of becoming a global citizen and caring for others, you know, this is definitely a great avenue and a great place to really put your feet in and start working towards becoming a real global citizen.
Wonderful. Well, you touched on a couple of really big things. How have you taken your experience and your knowledge here and put it into the classroom for kids who will never come here? How does your school benefit from your experience here?
Well, after our first visit at the International World Food Prize, we left there saying, like, we can't stop talking about hunger just because the event is over. And so we decided to, that spring, we had a World Hunger Day. And we invited the World Food Program to come in. They brought a lesson with them, and they taught the lesson to our entire middle school. We had a food packaging event that day. I've actually traveled to Kenya twice and worked on clean water projects and school building projects. And so myself and a couple of other people that have traveled with me, we put together a little presentation. And so this year, actually, we decided to take it one step further, and we centered with the theme of the real Hunger Games. And we ended up having like a competition that incorporated the book and the characters. We had high school students playing these characters from the book. But then we also showed documentaries, like A Place at the Table, and we used the World Food Program's lesson about Mali and Mali's world. And we had a different organization come from the Quad Cities, which is a little bit closer to our school, come up, and the kids participated in a food packaging event where they packaged over 11,000 meals in one day that were going to be sent to Nicaragua. You know, these kids in this experience of this one day, you know, it happened actually just a couple of days ago for them, but they left and they were saying things to me like, oh my gosh, this was really great. Because one of the other things that we brought in was we had our local food pantry, the gentleman that runs our local food pantry for Jackson County come in, and he talked about hunger locally. And sometimes that gets lost in translation. Sometimes everything is about hunger at the global level, and we forget that actually, you know, you have all of these islands where we have all of this farmland and all of these farm animals and all of this food, and we have all these people that actually are starving, over 300,000 people in Iowa who are food insecure, and we can't forget about them, and we need to talk about them, and it needs to be talked about so that the stigma of hunger stops, so people can actually start getting the food that they need and accepting the help and going forward with their lives. I mean, there's a lot of great information out there on the internet that Iowa State has put together with the Extension Office. They have a great video about Iowa hunger that's super easy to find on YouTube, and you know, the resources are out there for teachers to create lessons and do things with hunger that really bring it home locally, I think.
Wonderful. I have no other questions.
Okay.
Anything else you want to talk about or say? You've given us a lot. Anything else?
No, okay. I don't think so.
Well, 2 years ago, I went to the Global Youth Institute on World Hunger after I came to the Iowa Youth Institute. And I got to speak to so many amazing experts that have made huge impacts in the world. I shook hands with the Secretary General of the UN. I talked to Ambassador Kenneth Quinn. I talked to this amazing woman who had been doing all kinds of work in countries where women don't have rights. And I got to hear her perspective on the world and how she's made an impact. And ever since then, I've decided that I wanted to go into nutrient supplement research, and the Youth Institute completely changed my career path. Originally, I wanted to be a music major, and now I'm going to Iowa State to be a food science major in the College of Agriculture. So it has made a huge impact on my life and my future goals. It taught me to set my goals high and that I can make a difference eventually if I keep trying. Well, after the first Youth Institute on World Hunger that I went to my sophomore year at Iowa State, I learned about all kinds of world hunger, and I had never even been exposed to that sort of thing beforehand. But then after I learned about that and I got some more interest into it, I decided to take an independent studies at my high school to study how to make nutrient supplements using something like soybean. And I studied different ways that Iowa can make a difference in the impact it has on world hunger. I also learned a lot about how you can use different nutrients and how combining those nutrients help the health of people. And yeah. Well, the Youth Institute has completely changed my life. It completely changed my career plans. It completely changed my future goals. I've made amazing friends. One of my friends went on one of the internships to Taiwan, and just having a friend from Ohio, I mean, that's amazing. The different networking I've been able to come up with, and even becoming a part of one of the volunteers today. I've made friends with Catherine Sabota, and now she's helped me get into some of the more leadership activities, and it's something that I can put on my resume. It's something that it's an experience that I can learn from today and use in the future. And the Youth Institute's completely rearranged my whole perspective on life. Yeah, I'm a kid, but I can do whatever I want. And there are people out there who can't do anything right now in their situations. So I'm in a position where I can do something, so why shouldn't I?
Great point. Do you think
you get exposed to kids that actually care? It took initiative and goal setting and work ethic to get that paper written, to prepare for the speech. You have a group of kids who actually care. And so sometimes you don't get that support system in your high school. You do get exposed to the kids who say, oh, I'm a kid, why does it matter, who cares? But you get exposed to the kids who actually care at the Youth Institutes. And that definitely motivated me and inspired me to work harder. And I have a support system of friends now that are from all over the country, but I can just call them up and ask them what they're talking about world hunger. What are you looking into right now? How is college going? How did your internship go? Being the person to help kind of be the person to ask them, and so it feels like they are making a difference and that somebody cares that they are doing it. And they do it for me too. They ask me what I'm up to right now, and just having someone there to kind of check up on you and make sure that you're completing your goals and having someone to care.
Wonderful. You know, you started.
Something that I've kind of come up with my ideas on citizenship is that being a good citizen isn't necessarily just staying in your community and not doing something wrong. It's about actively going out into your community to do something better, and having that global perspective that there is more than just your small town Iowa community, that there is a bigger perspective. There's a whole world of people who need your help, and that you can go out into your world and do something to better it. Really sets up that sense of community, that sense of leadership. And yeah.
That's fine. That
Okay.
was great.
After attending the Iowa Youth Institute and the Global Youth Institutes on World Hunger, I had a passion to study nutrient supplements and to work towards my small part of helping to end world hunger. Next year I'll be attending Iowa State for a food sciences major in the College of Agriculture, and I'll be a part of the honors program, so I'll be doing my own research, hopefully alongside professors, so I can learn what they've learned over the years and hopefully to get more experience behind myself. And then eventually I'd like to study nutrient supplements as a professor at a university or have some research job at an agriculture company. I haven't quite figured that out, but I want to continue studying nutrient supplements in the future.
Great. I've got all my questions. I'm just going to open it up. Is there any
Set your own goals. If somebody else isn't, you're not always going to have someone to set your goals for you. So set your goals, take steps to achieve them, and sometimes you're going to have to do it on your own, and sometimes you're not going to have the crowd behind you to do it. You have to take your own steps on your own.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you for your time.
That the Iowa Youth Institute has had on me is that it has inspired me to be a part of the fight against global hunger. I'm going to be going to the the Iowa State University next year to study international agricultural development, to implement new technologies into developing nations and further sustain agriculture.
Hold on for a second.
Time as you look back?
Yes, I first became involved in the Institute last April when I wrote an essay for the Iowa Youth Institute. And I went on to the World Food Prize, and from there I had the opportunity to interact with dignitaries and kind of share my ideas in fighting global hunger. Okay. Having people decision makers, listen to my voice, it kind of gave me an opportunity. It gives any high schooler an opportunity to have their voice heard, to make a difference in the world, to truly feel like they're making an impact.
So they really empowered you in a way.
Shortly after I participated in the Iowa Youth Institute, I went to Haiti through FFA, and I had the opportunity to work in an orphanage and develop a sustainable agricultural program down there to create a sustainable food source for the orphanage. And I also had the opportunity to build a home down in Haiti. And since I've gone through that, and since I've participated in the World Food Prize, I have been offered an internship through the World Food Prize to study or to spend 8 weeks in Mexico to intern with the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center in El Baton, Mexico.
Cool. All right. Bruce?
Traveling to other places just gave me a global perspective on just how big our world really is and how many people are involved in this world. And it kind of took it from like a tunnel vision to just really broadening my horizons and just letting me see a new part of the world that I've never seen before.
I got to go to Japan when I was a kid.
In the future, I will be an intern for the World Food Prize organization, and I'm very excited to do that. It's a huge honor to be offered that opportunity, and so I will be traveling to Mexico for 8 weeks in the summer of 2014. Ideally, the way I'd like to impact people across seas in developing nations, I would like to see an end to hunger in my lifetime, and it's a very high goal, but I do believe that it's possible. I do believe with the right amount of research and advancement in agriculture, I do believe that we can see an end to hunger in our lifetime.
And when you're ready to go, I know a couple of photographers that are
being involved in these experiences has given me a direction in my life, and it's kind of helped me find my passion. I really want to be involved in the fight against global hunger, and anybody who gets involved in the World Food Prize or the Iowa Youth Institute can find that direction themselves and find a passion in their life to kind of drive them and guide them for years to come.
The things that I've learned with the Iowa Youth Institute is how food security issues globally and locally are really a big concern. And coming from Cedar Rapids, most of my kids are city kids, and they haven't grown anything themselves. Very few of them have had a garden. But to think about farming and to think about food security issues on a local and a global scale has really been an advantage. Most of my kids don't even think about farming, but as the governor just said with the STEM initiatives, that STEM fields are really growing, and so I might have a student who's interested in engineering or a student who's interested in some other field that may never have thought about food security, and it's really opened their eyes to what they can do.
Cool. What
Yeah.
is that like?
The selection process I use to identify a student is a student that I feel is a strong student in science, not necessarily your top student, not necessarily the student that knows that they've wanted to become a cardiologist since the age of 7, but a student who has an interest but doesn't really know what to do. And that student then needs to write an essay, and I work with them writing that essay, but I try to choose a student who I think can benefit from the experience. So there's the Iowa Youth Institute that students go to in April at Iowa State. Then there's also the World Food Prize Global Youth Institute in October. And then some of those students will get a Borlaug Ruin internship. And we've had 5 interns. We've been fortunate to have 5 interns. And those experiences have really changed those students. It's changed what they major in college. It changes where they choose to go to college and what they choose to do maybe during the summer. So it's been a really positive experience for my students. And my students, I used to have to seek out students to try to get to write this essay, and now they come and ask me, they approach me, they know about it. The aha moment for me, I think that the Youth Institutes have changed me as well. First, the number of books that I've read, 40 Chances, the last Hunger season, those books are really powerful. I've also had students read those books as well, but also realizing that hunger is not an issue for just farmers, and it's not just an issue for politicians. It's an issue for lots of people in many different fields. There was an executive from Pepsi a couple of years ago that really made me think, how is this guy going to be relating to hunger issues? And it turns out that he was an electrical engineer, was looking at refrigeration units, bringing the cost of refrigeration units down, which is important in food spoilage. So that was a big, I hope that the students take away from the Youth Institutes that the work of Norman Borlaug is not done, and that we need people to continue his work, and that work can come about in many ways. You can be an engineer, you can be a farmer, you can be a scientist working in a laboratory. You can approach food security in a number of different ways, and I think that students need to hear that message. I think one of the things that the students come away from the Youth Institutes with is the fact that they can actually be part of a solution. They can work in fields that maybe they've read about, but now they see people, they interact with experts, they interact with scientists, and they see what types of jobs are actually available and what it takes to get them there. And I think that's a big, powerful thing from the Youth Institutes. I think the students have benefited immensely from the experts that sit at the lunch tables and sit next to students and are in the discussion roundtables. I think that the students really benefit from the experience that those individuals bring. I think the Youth Institutes definitely have changed some of our students. We had one student about 5 years ago that went to the Global Youth Institute and then did become an intern. One of the things that she did is she brought back to our school the Hunger Banquet. So students can go through this Hunger Banquet in October. She brought that back to our school, and it's now become, while she's in college and she's long gone from our school, it's become an annual Hunger Banquet at our school, and hundreds of students have benefited from that. I do think that the institutes have definitely influenced how I approach teaching biology and AP biology, even though I could have made those connections before. I seem to be making the connections of food security more than I ever used to. Students get to choose books in my class to read from a list. Some of them use books like 40 Chances or The Last Hunger Scene. In my daily lessons, I'm referring back to food security. I'm referring back to, while the students here in Iowa, most of them do not worry about where their food comes from, or if there's a drought in 2012, that's not really going to influence the price of their food, but it is going to have an issue for many people in the world. And I try to take that message to my classes and make that a teachable moment.